Khamzat Chimaev versus Jack Hermansson takes place tomorrow in a freestyle wrestling tournament, and I'll be giving my opinions on that matchup. Blachowicz versus Alexander Rakic is supposedly in the works for early 2022. That's the matchup the UFC are looking to make. Plus, a bunch of other decent matchups have been made in the UFC, so I thought, why not break down all of these topics in today's MMA News reaction video, starting with Khamzat Chimaev versus Jack Hermansson in a freestyle wrestling tournament tomorrow on pay-per-view. It'll actually be very interesting to see how many pay-per-views that sells, because outside of the UFC there aren't many big pay-per-view sellers. So if this actually does bring in some revenue, good for both of them, because they'll both be making quite a bit of money. I like the idea of this. I really enjoy MMA fighters taking grappling matches outside of the UFC. I believe Merab Dvalishvili just did this. I believe that Donald Cerrone's taken on a guy recently as well. I don't know what he's doing, but I think he's got a submission match coming up against a big name. Can't quite remember who it was, but I heard something about Donald Cerrone doing a submission match. He also took on RDA as well in a submission match not too long ago and had a great moment there as well where he beat RDA with an armbar. I like the idea of these out of UFC competition matchups with UFC fighters. It's just something to watch extra. It's like an extra fight that's going on. Khamzat Chimaev versus Jack Hermansson. First of all, freestyle wrestling tournament. Khamzat Chimaev is a freestyle wrestler. He's got a great record in freestyle wrestling. He's undefeated in freestyle wrestling as well, with a great career there, and he's so good at it because if you watch any of the footage online of him competing in these tournaments, he is just completely ragdolling these people all around the canvas or all around the mats, whatever you want to say. He's chucking them around like children, and I feel like he's probably going to be able to out-wrestle Jack Hermansson here. Now, I do respect that Jack Hermansson is taking on Khamzat Chimaev, not in like a submission underground type matchup where he can use some jiu-jitsu and maybe go for a leg lock and a heel hook and maybe try and catch Khamzat Chimaev in some kind of submission. He's purely going out there to out-positionally control Khamzat Chimaev. Jack Hermansson is limiting himself skill-wise on what he's good at. He's good at jiu-jitsu. That's his advantage. He's not really the best of grapplers. Like, if you get him to the ground, it's problems for you. He might not get you to the ground all of the time, but let's say Kelvin Gastelum throws Jack Hermansson to the ground and Jack Hermansson ends up on bottom, he's going to go straight for a leg and get a heel hook before you know it. But I respect him here for taking on Khamzat Chimaev in Khamzat Chimaev's expert field of choice. Freestyle wrestling, a great matchup for Khamzat Chimaev here. I do believe he's going to go out there and throw around Jack Hermansson. I think it's going to be a tough matchup for him because Jack Hermansson is a big guy and he's very strong and he's very physical. So maybe this will be a more difficult matchup than, let's say, Li Jingliang in the welterweight division, of course. Plus, Jack Hermansson is a grappler. So even though he's more of a jiu-jitsu guy, he's still going to have a lot of understanding about the grappling situations that go on in these kinds of matchups. But I just watched the weigh-in and it's up on my screen right now. And if you haven't seen it, I really do recommend that you go and watch the weigh-in. I understand that Khamzat Chimaev has shoes on. I really understand that he does. How the fuck is this guy a welterweight? And I'm just going to say it, maybe biggest weight bully of all time in the UFC. He's bigger than Jack Hermansson, and I'm not even over-exaggerating anything. I do understand he's got shoes on, but those shoes don't have much heel to them. Probably about an inch of height is added to Khamzat Chimaev, and he's still quite significantly taller than Jack Hermansson. And it's not even like Jack Hermansson has like a width advantage over him. He does have a little bit more broadness of the shoulders, maybe longer arms and stuff like that, but overall, Khamzat Chimaev's looking like the bigger guy, and he's definitely bulked up for this matchup as well, knowing that he doesn't have a tournament in the UFC coming up anytime soon, or any competition in the UFC coming up anytime soon. Isn't cutting weight whatsoever, and he is a giant man. Jack Hermansson's got a bigger head, but frame-wise, I mean, Khamzat Chimaev is a big middleweight, and that's crazy to say because I don't know how he makes welterweight, but he does it anyway. I can see him throwing around Jack Hermansson here, but I think Jack Hermansson's going to give some moments where you think, hang on a second here, maybe there is some ability to stop the onslaught of Khamzat Chimaev, but under the rule set, Jack Hermansson's basically just given himself no chance against Chimaev whatsoever, so I don't know why he signed it, but I respect Jack Hermansson. And can we respect Jack Hermansson? No problem with being destroyed and ragdolled by Khamzat Chimaev. First of all, they're good friends. They trained together for very many years. They've trained together a lot. Of course, Gerald Meerschaert, when he was fighting Khamzat Chimaev brought up the fact that his teammate Jack Hermansson is a white belt in jiu-jitsu, and he submitted you, or whatever he is in jiu-jitsu, I believe a purple belt or something like that, and he submitted Gerald Meerschaert, so how can Gerald Meerschaert call himself a black belt? I can't quite remember the line that Chimaev may have used, but it was in reference to the fact that he trains with Jack Hermansson, who isn't a black belt, and that guy was still able to submit a black belt in Gerald Meerschaert, and Jack Hermansson is very good in scrambles. He's good at ending up on top, so it could be an interesting matchup, but as I said again, Hermansson has he's removed all of his chances to win in a regular grappling match, and he's doing a freestyle wrestling tournament. It'll be interesting to see. I think this is great for Jack Hermansson's career, because in the future, he's got to work on getting opponents to the ground and working on his wrestling in general. His jiu-jitsu is great. If you end up on the ground with him, you're going to be in trouble within a few seconds at least. But his problem has always been getting his opponents to the ground. He couldn't quite get Jared Cannonier down often enough and good enough to set up some submission attempts. He couldn't quite get Marvin Vettori to the ground for long enough or good enough to end up on top and actually work some submission attempts. If he can perfect that part of his game, which it looks like is what he's training to do right now by taking this matchup, he's going to be a real threat in the middleweight division. And I think he might even beat a guy like Sean Strickland with this kind of practice beforehand. Great matchup. I'm glad both guys are staying busy. Hopefully no one gets injured. I'm going with Khamzat Chimaev, just ragdolling him and winning however he wants to. I don't see Jack Hermansson getting a single takedown. Should be fun to watch though, so I look forward to it. Moving on to another thing that came up. Jan Blachowicz versus Alexander Rakic is apparently in the works for early 2022, and Jiri Prochazka suddenly out of nowhere is more open to taking on top 5 contenders. You want to know why? First of all, this was reported by Ariel Helwani, so again, pinch of salt. I don't know how much to trust Ariel Helwani. I know he doesn't lie. And he wouldn't just lie about this situation. But it's not really official stuff to be coming out of Ariel Helwani's mouth. But usually what he says does happen to be true. So I'm going to follow along with this one as well. Jan Blachowicz, Alexander Rakic is being discussed for early 2022, as per Ariel Helwani. And it's a great matchup for both guys, in all honesty. I think it's a great stylistic matchup for Jan Blachowicz, really. And we'll talk about Jiri in a second and how this affects him. But let's talk about this matchup first. Great matchup. I think Alexander Rakic is kind of like a really underrated fighter in the light heavyweight division. If you've watched the Ozdemir fight, he did not lose to Ozdemir. It was a close fight. I'm not saying he clearly beat him, doubled him on strikes, and somehow they gave it to Ozdemir. It was a close fight, but Alexander Rakic, in my opinion, won that fight 2 rounds to 1. Very, very clearly. He should be undefeated in the UFC right now. And other than that, his only loss is his debut in MMA, where he was beating a guy, shot for a takedown and got guillotined because he simply just didn't even understand the grappling aspect of MMA in general and was a kickboxer that wanted to make a bit of extra money back in his hometown or on the regional scene, so just signed up for an MMA fight and ended up getting submitted in that fight as well. So other than that, he's practically undefeated in his entire career, on a massive win streak right now, if you don't count the Ozdemir loss. He's a real beast of a guy in this division. I know he barely beat Thiago Santos, but he beat Thiago Santos. You know? John Jones barely beat Thiago Santos, and that was Thiago Santos on one leg in the middle of the fight as well. Alexander Rakic deserves a lot of respect. He beat Anthony Smith and dominated Anthony Smith as well, by the way, and we've seen that Anthony Smith can beat guys like Jimmy Crute, Ryan Spann, all of these up-and-coming contenders. Anthony Smith can hold the gate against them. Can't quite do it against Alexander Rakic, who chopped away at his legs, destroyed his legs in that first round, and just dominated on top for the rest of the fight as well. Got a great win over Jimmy Manor as well that you'll all remember. Alexander Rakic is a beast of a guy in that division. He doesn't get enough respect, but I do believe this is a great matchup for Jan Blachowicz, and I respect Jan Blachowicz for looking to get right back in there and get that sour taste out of everyone's mouths, which was him losing to that pensioner Glover Teixeira, because if you don't know, Glover Teixeira right now took 0 fucking damage against Jan Blachowicz whatsoever, so he's going to be returning in May, because he's an old man. That's what we got right now as a champ of the division. Returning in May, because he took 0 damage against Jan Blachowicz. 0! He's got Bingo in March. He's got Knitting Club on in February, I believe, as well. I don't know what else is going. I think he's got a funeral fucking plan for himself in August, so he's got to get this matchup in May. We'll see how it goes. But I feel like right now this is the perfect matchup to make. I didn't like the idea of an Anthony Smith-Alexander Rakic rematch, but honestly, I like the idea of it because the promo is there. Merry Christmas to me. I've got 2 presents for you, my friend. You know, and Alexander Rakic gave a bit of promo back, and it was kind of set up to make a rematch. But it was the best out of a bad situation. Seeing as Jan Blachowicz wants to stay active, this is great for him against Alexander Rakic. And not only that, but when you think about what Jan Blachowicz does well, stand up, Alexander Rakic is a stand-up guy. He's probably not going to get Jan Blachowicz to the ground, and I don't even think he'll go for a takedown against Jan Blachowicz either. I think he'll entertain the idea of outstriking Jan Blachowicz on the feet, maybe. 5-round main event is what I want from this, because we need to see these contenders go 5 rounds, especially in the case of Alexander Rakic, before he fights for a belt and goes 5 rounds there. Jan Blachowicz is extremely good at checking leg kicks. And that's one thing that Rakic does better than maybe anyone in UFC history, because his leg kicks are absolutely debilitating and it's dangerous to watch. Jan Blachowicz defends leg kicks very well, has a great chin, has good range, and has good power on the feet as well. Alexander Rakic, good range, leg kicks, which is counted by Jan Blachowicz, but maybe they aren't. Who knows? Maybe he's got better leg kicks than Israel Adesanya. But he's also a little bit chinny, in my opinion. Maybe Jan Blachowicz could catch him on the counter. Maybe something like that could happen. I could realistically see Alexander Rakic outstriking Jan Blachowicz at range. I just don't like what I saw in that Glover Teixeira fight. It really does remove that aura of invincibility around the fighter when you see something like that happen. I could see maybe Alexander Rakic ending up on top. And watching that Glover fight, man, Jan had nothing on bottom. Zero. He locked up his guard and stayed there and accepted bottom position. And he can't do that against Alexander Rakic. But it's a good matchup for him. I'm looking forward to that fight being made. And I hope it does get made. But let's talk about Yuri's part in this as well. Because Prochazka, suddenly out of nowhere, yesterday, 9 hours ago, is willing to jump in against a top 5 opponent out of nowhere. I've wanted Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic for a long time now. That was the perfect title elimination bout. The Battle of Europe, 2 Europeans, Yuri Prochazka, Alexander Rakic for the title shot. Perfect. Now that Alexander Rakic is maybe signing a fight with Jan Blachowicz, Yuri's realised, oh shit, if he beats him, I might not get my title shot because Glover ain't ready until May. And let's say this fight gets made in February and Rakic head kick KOs Jan Blachowicz. He's got himself the title shot over Yuri Prochazka. So I think they should just ignore Jan Blachowicz, take Prochazka at his word that he's willing to fight a top 5 opponent, switch up this matchup completely, and make Prochazka versus Yuri Prochazka versus Alexander Rakic for the title shot, and then Anthony Smith versus Jan Blachowicz for another title shot down the line, who knows. That's the best way of doing this. But Yuri Prochazka says, of course, if there will be a long time for me to wait for the title chance, maybe I'll take someone around the top 5. But everyone knows about me in the UFC. They spoke about me in my title chance. He said that it's set in stone that he's going to get a title shot. But if he has to wait a long time, he's going to have the matchup in the meantime. But this is the chance. Let's make it right now. Rakic Prochazka, now that we know that Prochazka's interested, if he does have to wait a long time, make that happen. And then let's do Blachowicz versus Anthony Smith. And that would fix this problem right now in the light heavyweight division. You've got Ankalaev Santos now as well. Perfect. Let's move on to another situation, which was Headline Island Instagram page posted that Roman Dolidze has stepped in to face Brendan Allen on December 4th. Good for Roman Dolidze, honestly, stepping up and taking these tough challenges. I've got to take Brendan Allen in that one. He's looking amazing recently, and I don't see how Roman Dolidze is going to beat him in any way whatsoever. I respect Roman Dolidze, but he's not that good, and people call him the GOAT in my comment section, and they call him the GOAT in my streams, because it's a meme on the page to call these guys the GOAT. But, I'm going with Brendan Allen here. Very good, looked complete on the feet, great grappling skills, a big guy for the division. Watching Roman Dolidze just barely scrape by a decision win against Laureano Strapoli, who just got barely out-scraped by for a decision win by Jamie fucking Pickett. Doesn't look good for Roman Dolidze whatsoever. He lost to Trevin Giles, who's recently been KO'd by Dricus du Plessis. I don't like this matchup for him, especially on short notice. Even though he did have a matchup booked recently, I feel like Brendan Allen's got this one in the bag. I'm just glad that this matchup's been saved, because I was looking forward to Brendan Allen versus Brad Tavares. But Brad Tavares pulled out of the fight for unknown reasons. Alex Pereira, you know what I mean? I feel like Brad Tavares is getting plucked out of the matchup and used as like a Kevin Holland bounce-back opponent, a Darren Till bounce-back opponent, or an Alex Pereira welcome to the rankings party, because he does not get any chance to have his own career. Brad Tavares' entire MMA career is purely based around being there for other people's career and being there to move other people up the rankings. One other thing that got signed, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Jack Shaw. Amazing matchup. If you know, you know. 2 undefeated guys right now, I believe. Umar Nurmagomedov, don't know the exact records, but I'll guess they're both around 13-0, 14-0 each. Don't know what really, in terms of like perfectly what their records are, but they're both extremely undefeated, with lots of wins, in the early teens of their wins. Jack Shaw versus Umar Nurmagomedov. I love this matchup. I'm going to go maybe Jack Shaw, right? I mean, Sergey Morozov showed a lot of problems with Umar Nurmagomedov, showed he could stuff a lot of takedowns, and Jack Shaw don't get fucking taken down. He doesn't get taken down, he takes people down, and he ragdolls them, and he fought his last fight with a torn shoulder and still dominated the guy and barely got touched on the feet as well. This is a great matchup, a phenomenal matchup. I might trust in Jack Shaw here. It's in London, March 19th card. I guess that's where London's going to be. This is a great matchup, though. I don't mind Umar Nurmagomedov's chances, but I swear, if they put him as like a favourite over Jack Shaw, this should be an evens matchup, in my opinion. If they put Umar Nurmagomedov as a 2-1 favourite because his surname's Nurmagomedov, I'm taking that underdog in Jack Shaw all day, every day. Great matchup, though, in the division of bantamweight. I wish... This is a great matchup. I love it. Why is it being made? I felt the same way about Evloev versus Topuria. Everyone's going, wow, what a matchup. I'm thinking, you know what, these guys can meet each other for the belt someday. Jack Shaw's beaten like, what, 4 in a row now in the UFC? He's signed to fight Saeed Nurmagomedov. I mean, Jack Shaw don't give a fuck. He'll sign against any Nurmagomedov they give him. He was signed to fight Saeed Nurmagomedov. Saeed Nurmagomedov, I believe, has now got a fight with Cody Stamann. So Saeed Nurmagomedov, who pulled out of the Jack Shaw fight for visa issues, has got a ranked opponent for himself. Jack Shaw, who stayed on that card with a torn shoulder and beat the replacement opponent, has got a step way back in the rankings. But he doesn't give a fuck, apparently. He wants to take on the Nurmagomedovs. He calls himself the Welsh Habib. We'll see how that one goes down. But great matchups have been made. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.